Last night, our San Antonio Spurs whooped the Minnesota Timberwolves again. What is up, San Antonio Spurs fans? Welcome to TSR Sports. Our Spurs laid the smacketh downeth on Minnesota again. The second blowout of the series, and our Spurs are now up 3-2, and I'm going to pull a Kendrick Perkins and a Gilbert Arenas. This series, it's over. Okay, it's not over, but let's go ahead and break down the series and talk a little bit about last night, the series in general, etc. First up, the series. Game number 1. Our Spurs lost by 2, 104-102. Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox were, let's put it like it is, say it like it is, they were awful on offense, going combined 10 for 31 from the field and scored a total of 21 points. And with both of them struggling big time on offense, we still only lost by 2, and we were Julian Champagnie 3 away from winning the game. I think Minnesota got a little lucky on this one, because if the Spurs win this one, well, then the series is over and it's a gentleman's sweep. They didn't. Let's move on to game number 2, which was a massacre. Didn't Minnesota even try? Were they happy with just taking one away from San Antonio and moving to Minnesota? Because they got massacred 133-95, a 38-point victory. We get to game number 3, which is a competitive one. The Spurs win by 7, but this was a big win for our San Antonio Spurs, as not only did they win on the road, but they took home court advantage back. Nice. Game number 4, that is the controversial one, if you will. Victor Wembanyama was injected in the second quarter for throwing that elbow. Do I think it was intentional? No, I don't think it was trying to hit Naz Reid. He was not trying to people's elbow in the throat. Do I think it was the correct call ejecting him from the game with the flagrant 2? Yes, and I understand that everything that led up to it, but it was the right call. Minnesota ends up winning this game 114-109. We didn't have Wayne for the entire second half, and if the Spurs didn't blow a fourth quarter lead, Spurs win this game. But nope, that's not what happened. Minnesota won. Okay, we get to game 5 last night. What in the world? What a weird series where you have these really ultra competitive games, and then you have a game like game 2 last night, game 5 in San Antonio, with the angry Wemby and a motivated Wemby. The first quarter, man, he was going off. I legit thought he was going to score 60 points last night, but he wouldn't have needed to, because he wouldn't have been playing much in the fourth quarter. We went 126-97. A blowout again. Minnesota, what's happening here? And Ant was not on a minutes restriction. He was starting. The team looked relatively healthy, minus Dante DiVincenzo being out for the season. I guess this is why. What's my point? TSR, what's your point here? Okay, yeah, we get what happened. My point is, this series is showing us that when our Spurs play like the team that went 62-20, they are a much better team than Minnesota, in my humble opinion. My original prediction for this series was Spurs in 6, and they can do that Friday night, which game's on Amazon Prime, a doubleheader, which means that game probably going to spill over into our game like they always do. So that's what I'm thinking of this series. I do think we're the much better team. Do you? Drop a comment on that. Want to talk about some things from last night? Let's give a shout out. I got to do this because he's been struggling all throughout the entire playoffs. Not just the Minnesota series, but the Portland series as well. Keldon Johnson finally played like the 6th man of the year. He was fantastic last night. In 22 minutes, he had 21 points on 8 of 11 shooting. I like to see the rebounds be up a little more. But 2 steals, 1 block. He was active on defense. Easily the best game we've seen in his young playoff career. Plus, I think he had at least 7 yells or 7 screams, whatever you call it. So that's my Johnson, and he was great last night. Something else I want to touch base on a little bit. There's a lot of talk about De'Aaron Fox's playoff performance. He was okay to good in Portland, and so far in Minnesota, he has been struggling. In the 5 games so far, he's played 33 minutes a game, averaging 17 points, about 3 rebounds, 4 assists, about a steal and a half, and on fairly non-efficient shooting splits of 38, 23, 78. And now dealing with an injury as well, though he seemed mostly okay last night. Yes, he has been struggling. I do think this is partly because of the way Minnesota is defending him and the way who is defending him for that matter. And I do think he has been better than statistically, how his stats would indicate. But he has been inconsistent as well, where he's kind of disappeared for a quarter, 2 or 3, and then turns it up in a quarter. He's going to need to be better if the Spurs are going to have any chance of beating the Thunder in the next round. The Thunder are going to be well rested. And yes, I do think the Spurs are going to finish this series against Minnesota. I absolutely do. Will it be the 6 games as I originally predicted? Maybe the Spurs have all the momentum again. However, it's in Minnesota. Will Minnesota come out firing? Will they be motivated to win at home? I think they will be. I think Game 6 is going to be a competitive one. I don't see a blowout whatsoever on Friday night. I think it's going to be one of those games that's going to be 5 points or less, and hopefully come out victorious on that. If the Wolves do pull it off on Friday night, then the last game will be, I believe, Sunday next week, and I don't see Minnesota beating us at home. I think the Spurs will close it out in 7, but right now I have us winning in 6. Just this team is, what I love about this team, I'm going off on a tangent, is it doesn't need to be one guy all the time. Wemby was the guy in the first quarter, right? Scored, I think, 16 points. And then we got to the third quarter, Minnesota went on a run. And who shut down that run? Well, actually, he's right here next to me. Stephon Castle. I think he went on a 5-0 run on his own, or a 7-0 run, but he started hitting bucket after bucket, and he was huge in the third quarter and in the fourth quarter when they started punching us in the face a little bit. He had a couple timely buckets to, maintain the lead. So that's what I love about this team, is so many guys contribute at any different moment, whether it's Wemby, Fox, Castle, Harper, Johnson last night. Really the only person who hasn't contributed like I thought they would this series at all, because even Carter Bryant's had his moments, Luke's had his moments, everybody's had a moment at some point that gets regular minutes in rotation, is Harrison Barnes. I guess I'll close out with this before my closeout closeout is the touch base on him. Is he working himself, or playing himself, should I say, out of the rotation completely? Most NBA teams tighten up their rotations in the playoffs. We see Minnesota regularly going with only 8 guys. And right now, we have our main 8 guys with the starting lineup plus Luke, Keldon, and Dylan. But you're also seeing random minutes here and there by Carter Bryant and Harrison Barnes. And I wonder if moving forward, eventually Harrison Barnes' minutes are going to be 0. Granted, he's only playing, 5 minutes a game as it is roughly? Maybe a little more because of the blowout. With Kuisi's minutes just gone, and go to Carter Bryant. Carter, of course, has struggled too with turnovers here and there, but he's also hit some threes. He's a Energizer bunny on defense. I'm curious in your thoughts. Do you think Harrison Barnes should continue to get minutes against Minnesota, or is this just ain't his series and save him for OKC? And also, final comment, how do you see the series playing out? Spurs in 6, Spurs in 7. And if you're a Timberwolves fan watching the video, because you might have seen the title and said, this doofus is saying it's over. How do you think this plays out? What does your team need to do to make adjustments? Because getting blown out twice in a series is not a good look. And those 2 blowouts, plus the other things I talked about, Wemby being injected and the Wolves barely won that game, the Spurs being a 3-pointer away from winning the game. What do the Minnesota Timberwolves need to do to close out this series? What they need to do to win the next 2? I don't think they can. Even if I wasn't a Spurs fan, I would say, if I was not a Spurs fan, I would say the series is going to 7 and the Spurs win it. As a Spurs fan, I'm going to say we close it out Friday night. Drop the comment, hit the like, and subscribe to become part of our awesome Spurs community. Thank you, and as always, go Spurs go.